it shows us that no matter who we play, no matter who we got on our team, we can always pull through and get the win for West Haven.
You know, I saw one of my guys, number 10, Lou Longo. He kicked it in. I was like, it's my time right here. So I picked up. Let's go touchdown.
First defensive touchdown?
First defensive touchdown, yes, sir.
How's that feel?
It feels great.
You know, it's all coaching. It's all my teammates. My teammates, they kept me going. They were like, in the locker room, we need someone to be a superstar. We need someone to make a play. And that's just what I did. I saw the ball in the air. I just went and grabbed it. I knew I had to do it for my team.
He made a great catch. He's capable of doing a lot of things. Sometimes he loses concentration, and I tell the kids all the time, you never know when the ball's coming to you. You never know. With the way we call our offense, it could come to you at any time. So you have to be ready on any given play.
And basically, I don't want to jinx us, but we haven't had any major injuries, so I don't think we could be in any better position. 4-0. We beat Staples on the road. We came to Shelton and won in the rain, not our kind of night. And I think that says a lot to our guys that they stepped it up and found a way to win a great game on the road against a great team.
3, 4. Hello, everybody, and welcome once again to the Meat Grinder, your weekly dose of high school football in Connecticut. And I'm your host, Sean Patrick Boley, and with me, as always, is Pete Paguaga. Petey, how are you? Are you dried off yet?
I am dried off. I am in my amazing REI rain gear. No free ads.
Yeah.
Did excellent work. I stayed very dry, except one of my sleeves got a little wet. But other than that, it was great. My camera, the microphone finally just dried out, but I kept that contained as well. Just happy to have made it without getting. I was afraid that something there would be a hole and then it would just get soaked and then it would just sit there. But I came out dry, so I was very happy.
What an absolutely miserable.
What a nightmare. What
miserable.
An absolute nightmare Friday night was.
Miserable weekend it was. And, I'm used to weather screwing things up. This is football season. But over the years, football games, they've been less and less tolerant of adverse weather conditions. Nobody wants to get hurt. Nobody wants to chew up if they have a grass field. There are a few grass fields out there still. I think Stafford loved showing theirs off on this weekend. But even that, no one wants to have any type of issues. They would prefer to play, under sunny skies, balmy 70 degrees. And unfortunately, that's not the case. So when the drops of rain come down, you got to start thinking about safety. Just a different era. So we had a lot of postponements, but then a lot of teams just said, you know what? The heck with it. We're playing. Fortunately for us, West Haven, Shelton got played in a monsoon on Friday night. I saw Masuk versus Bunnell. I was going to go see Cromwell, Portland, but they play on grass. They pushed their game to Sunday, which I saw that. We'll get to that in a little bit. And then there were Saturday games for teams that games got postponed. I haven't seen so many. There's still games from week 1 that still haven't been finished yet. Cromwell, Portland being one of them. Rockville didn't actually get a game in until week 3 or something. It was crazy. Yep. So, I don't remember this many postponements. I mean, there've been some, but we've been playing out. Someone asked me, there's been a lot of Sunday games. You're going to a lot of Sunday games. And I think I've only been to 2, but still that's 2 more than normal. That's still 2 more. And I could have even gone to more yesterday, but thankfully my friend rescued me. He said he was making pizza at his house. He's a chef. He's making pizza at his house, and I was over to go check that out, which was awesome. In the backyard, he's got a big, gas oven, but he was doing some great pizza pies. I'll throw some of those video highlights over this when we do post. But it was other than that though, Saturday, Sunday, I don't want to say Saturday was beautiful, but Sunday certainly was. But that Friday, man, Pete, it was just, and some of the scores actually reflected it. We saw a lot of weird things happen on Friday night. We saw Pomperog lose its first game. We saw Barlow lose its first game to Brookfield, which had lost to Pomperog. And then finally, Southington loses the Hall on a field goal. and I wouldn't say it's a sloppy game, but certainly one that we didn't expect to happen. Southern put all sorts of points up and only able to score 6. I mean, this was like the great equalizer on Friday night.
Yeah, head scratchers for sure across the board. I mean, there were some very interesting decisions made by people who make a lot more money than I do, to move certain games at certain times and places and stuff. I mean, look no further than Fairfield. I mean, Ludlow moves up the game from 7 o'clock to 3:45. Turned out to be a massive mistake in terms of weather.
I think the team thought it was still. I think the team thought it was still 7 o'clock.
Yeah, but the weather was worse at 3:45. They end up moving the start gate of that game back to 4-ish, and then Lightning comes with 2 minutes left in the second quarter, and they're like, you know what? It's 43-0. We don't need to continue this. So that game ends before halftime. Then on the flip side, Ward is playing Wilton, 32-0, and Lightning delay there. And they're like, you know what? We don't want to finish this either. So combined, the city of Fairfield public high schools played like 3.5 quarters. I mean, you have Saturday. What are we do? Why are we moving the game up?
Did they think that they would equalize it against New Canaan?
Well, apparently, remember, New Canaan doesn't play well in the rain. We learned that a couple of years ago. But shout out to the former West Hill coach. But apparently, when Ludlow moved the game, they thought they saw radar that was a better window. And then obviously it's weather. It changes. Yeah. So it changed and that was it. But I don't understand why. If you're just going to move it, just move it to Saturday. I mean, look, Ludlow was on a bye. The majority of the FCIAC's on a bye this week. New Canaan's playing Saturday this week. So even if you move the game to Saturday, that's still a week between games for New Canaan.
Yeah.
So, like, what are we, like, who, that was,
well, that was like, not be a great decision. Yeah. Well, it didn't work out great for Ludlow. I don't know what their decision was there. They got shown the door very quickly and screamed no mas, they were undefeated going against the team that had one loss. Everyone's getting excited in Fairfield, and Ludlow didn't show up. I mean, maybe they thought the game was at 7 o'clock. But the turns out the window was to play at night because my second half of my game, it let up. We had no rain in the second half of Masuk Bunnell. But we had other games. I mean, we cannot give you the top 10 poll as of this recording. I'm going to add it in later in post-production when we get it finally, because on tonight, Danbury is playing number 1 Greenwich. Now, is number 1 Greenwich going to beat Danbury? Probably, but we don't know. So we're going to have to wait. Maybe Augie's got some surprises for us up at their field. That's a tough spot. Monday Night Football for everyone there. That's one of 2 games that are Monday night. I think Coggins is also playing too, Coventry. And so we have to wait on the poll. I will drop it in once we, just to run it down for you. And as promised, here is the complete Game Time CT Top 10 poll for Week 5. Starting at the bottom, number 10, Darien, the Blue Wave, cracked the top 10 for the first time in 13 months. After losing to St. Joe when they were preseason number 1 last year, they fell all the way out. And now they are back in the top 10 poll after starting 4-0. Number 9 is Bloomfield. When was the last time the Warhawks were in the top 10 poll? They're off to a great 4-0 stuff, led by the Kerr brothers and Darian Foster, a quarterback. Warhawks get the next 2 weeks off. Must be nice. Number 8 is Ansonia, which still has a first-place vote, but somehow keeps sinking in the polls despite starting the season 4-0. Number 7 is New Canaan, which dropped out of the poll briefly this season, now all the way back up to number 7. They face St. Joseph in a pretty big game Saturday, while the rest of the FCIAC has the week off. Number 6 is Staples. Lost week 1 to West Haven, now has come all the way back up to number 6. They're on a 3-game win streak. Number 5 is Newtown, which just continues to roll past its SWC opponents. Beat Stratford pretty big last week. Number 4 is Maloney, which rebounds nicely after losing to Greenwich in a 1-versus-3 battle last week. Number 3, Cheshire getting a first-place vote, 4-0. Jeffries and the gang beating Fairfield Prep 14-0, and now they're siphoning a vote away from Greenwich. Number 2 is West Haven, hanging tough there. Big victory over at Shelton. Lots of support at number 2 for the Westies, but still 76 points behind number 1 Greenwich, which has which has 24 first-place votes now and still continues to hold down the number one spot after a 36-0 victory over Danbury on Monday night. That'll do it for this Top 10 update. Now back to your regularly scheduled podcast. But the big game this week, Pete, was your game over at Finn Stadium, the two of the best teams in the SEC, Shelton, West Haven. West Haven screaming at us. Sliding into our DMs. Why we aren't ranked number one? Where are you going? West Haven, we're the best team in the state. We're the best team in the state. Pete, finally, we already covered them week one, so we'll forget about that.
Covered them more than week one. We've done stories. We've talked about them on this show. It for the people who DM us all the time, pay attention.
Yeah.
It's there.
No.
Just because you don't see it doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist unless it's on Instagram, apparently.
God.
Anyway, so you're at Finn Stadium.
I'm out on that person, whoever that is. If you know who you are in my Instagram DMs on Game Time, you are not a fan. You are not a friend of the program.
Yeah, don't get in Pete's doghouse. But anyway, so you're at Finn Stadium, Pete. The end of the day, it was all Westies all the time. Shelton gives it a run, but 31-21, Westies making a case right now that they are the top team in the state. What did you see on the floor there at Finn Stadium?
Well, someone asked me how I vote, and obviously I vote Greenwich 1, and I vote West Haven 2, and I said West Haven might be more electric, might be more playmakers who could flip the game like this. The thing that gets in West Haven's way, and I've seen West Haven twice, and I've seen Greenwich once, is West Haven tends to sometimes get in their own way. Dumb penalties, mistakes. And that showed in this game, just before we get into it. Like, West Haven was, 14-0? Or, it was 14-0, I think, or 13-0 going into the second half. West Haven throws a screen pass in the pouring rain, a screen pass behind the line of scrimmage that is now a fumble, and Kanye Tinney takes it back to the house, and all of a sudden it's a one-score game. Like, just like things like that, it's like Greenwich doesn't make those mistakes right now from what I've seen, so that's where I'm basing my one vote off of. West Haven's my number 2. West Haven is probably maybe the most talented team in the state. They just need to clean up a lot of stuff. Took a bunch of bad false starts with their backs against the wall in the end zone. 3 false starts in a row. Like, yeah, thank God they have Camren Kemp back there to get them 6 yards. But, like, you can't do that against really good teams. They will make you pay. The Westie playmakers showed up as soon as the game kicked off. Whether it was pouring or not, Nick Conlon was able to get the ball to Armani Reid. Kemp was running the ball really well. Reid scores on the first, I think it was West Haven's first drive of the game. Nice little touchdown pass to him wide open in the end zone. They took a 10-0 lead on a field goal, and then Kanye Tinney obviously scores on the fumble. But then really coming into the second half, it was all West Haven. Reid, another touchdown pass. Kemp, another run. And you thought, here comes West Haven. They're just going to blow the doors off of Shelton because Shelton can't get anything going on offense. But 2 big breaks by David Dodgelicko. I think I nailed it.
Attaboy. Stop that landing.
Yeah, he scores twice to pull Shelton within a score. It's 24-21. And again, it's raining. Like, anything could really happen in this game. We've seen fumbles. We saw teams kind of kicking the ball around here. But West Haven's able to, kind of hold on to the ball, move down the field. Huge third down pass to my boy Armani Reid. This kid I called you after on Friday night. This kid is a first-team All-State type player. Catches the ball down by his shoelaces. Was able to break a tackle, turn upfield, get all the way to the 1. It was a 45-yard pass. And then Kemp puts it away. West Haven up by 10. Armani was great after the game. I talked to him a little bit about what it means for this team to be 4-0.
Playing a team like Shelton this early, you guys are now 4-0. It has not, it's not an easy stretch for
at
you
all.
guys. So to come out 4-0, how does that help you guys, kind of the rest of the way?
It shows us that no matter who we play, no matter who we got on our team, we can always pull through and get the win for West Haven. It's actually fun. Every day is hot. or every day before the season, I'm like, I can't wait for a rainy game or a snowy game. We finally got one, and it's real fun in here.
And then obviously Richie Boucher is just all time. We were, talked a little bit about the weather. Armani was a fan of the weather, which I thought was really interesting because he's like, it's always so hot. It's so nice to play in the rain. And then Richie though was like, hey, we've beat some really good teams here. And, I'm going to let Rich give his push for where his team should be voted.
Well, it can't be any better than what we are. We beat 2 top 10 teams on the road. And basically, I don't want to jinx us, but we haven't had any major injuries. So I don't think we could be in any better position. 4-0. We beat Staples on the road. We came to Shelton and won in the rain, not our kind of night. And I think that says a lot to our guys that they stepped it up and found a way to win a great game on the road against a great team.
Look, I think he's got a good point. They have 2 road wins against top 10 teams. Staples in the opener, and then Shelton on Friday. Yep. And one of the assistant coaches said to me, Pete, find me another team in the state who has 2 road wins against top 10 teams. And I don't think I can. Now, there's no RPI, so I don't really know what to tell him. But it was still an impressive win by West Haven. I am so impressed with them every time I see them. They just need to clean it up a little bit more for my liking.
Greenwich, beat Maloney, top 10 team, top 5 team up at Maloney. So maybe one off West Haven. I know there's going to be a back and forth between West Haven and Greenwich. Maybe we see this one down the road, but I haven't seen West Haven yet. I guess I'll see them this week. Hamden, they are heading up to Hamden. Now, it's been a house of horrors for them up at Hamden, but it is the homecoming from Kemp, who, as you recall, a week before the season started, transferred to West Haven. The move that sent shockwaves throughout SEC Tier 1. And then the famous quote from Tom Dyer's coach is like, well, don't ask me about him anymore. It's Richie Boucher's kid. So, but
that game was awesome last year. We were there last year. That Hamden was winning the entire time, I think West Haven was winning. Hamden came all the way back to make it a game. West Haven pulls it away. Reid with the big touchdown. Kemp got hurt. I mean, that was a wild game. And now this has a whole bunch of other stuff surrounding it, a whole bunch of other stuff, regardless of what's going on the field. There's a lot to this game, a lot of storylines. Yeah,
lots of storyline. No love lost now, I'm very sure, between West Haven and Hamden now. Two old district league rivals. It's Hamden has been down for so long, though. It's like there's only been 1 or 2 seasons in the last 20 years where you were like Hamden, West Haven, I can't wait. And in the years that they were, that's all they had really in the years that they were both down. But that hasn't been a lot. They've been a lot better West Haven years than I've been Hamden years. But it's nice to see Hamden now. Big game. They lost to Ludlow in a game that now I'm looking at that. I'm shaking my head and going, Hamden.
Yeah. So, what happened?
What happened there? Are they going to be able to hold off all the playmakers and their former teammate? I'm sure the emotions are going to be playing into it a little bit, and that's a tough field to play on. Everything's kind of screwed there. The fans are so far away. That won't be a factor, but that should be a fascinating game. I can't wait. 2 years ago they were up there. West Haven lost that game on pick 6 or a fumble recovery touchdown or something to that effect. And then last year, as you mentioned, the big slugging back and forth. Hamden came back, was going in, and then Kemp got hurt. He had that really bad elbow dislocation. Reid came running out. And an epic game. It was probably the best game of the year in the SEC. It was at least one of them. Now they're both in Tier 1. Now they're, and I'm looking at this West Haven schedule, Pete. Let's take a look at it because it's interesting. Because there's no rest for the weary. They got Hamden at Hamden this week, 6 o'clock. Be there, be square. Then they're home versus North Haven. I'm sure glad they love that at home rather than up at Vandercourt Field. Then they're at Newtown, which has not lost yet. Newtown is number 5 in the last poll. I don't know if they move up or anything. I doubt it. But Newtown, they got Newtown, which is just sweeping up and down the SWC. And that'll be an interesting game. Then Notre Dame West Haven, which, coming off one of the worst losses in program history against North Haven, 56-0. But then there's the big one, the week before Thanksgiving at the McClary Complex. Matt Jeffrey and Cheshire, get your tickets now. That's going to be fascinating. I mean, I think West Haven look, there's no gimme by any stretch, but I like West Haven in a lot of these games, Pete.
Yeah, me too. And just a quickly thing, we're not writing Hamden off by any stretch. J.J. Gibson, Hamden's quarterback, has not played since week 1 against Trumbull. He was a major factor in Hamden's great game last year against West Haven. Obviously, a quarterback with a big arm, plays on defense, and can run well. I wonder if we see him back this week. But I will, and also Tommy Dyer, good motivator. I mean, he is a rah-rah guy as they come, and he can get his guys up. They beat Trumbull in the opener, right? When anyone wanted to talk about heading into week 1 was Kemp going to West Haven. And there, Hamden won double overtime, knocking off Trumbull at home with 2 running backs who no one had heard of until that day. So I am not counting out Hamden by any stretch, but it is going to be a little bit of an uphill battle for the Green Dragons.
Yeah, that's a fascinating week 5. This is kind of a light week with the FCIAC, I think the SWC, right, as well, give or take. Yeah, the SWC is off. The FCIAC is off. It's a little bit of a light schedule. FCC will be taking the bye next week, and some of the other schools that are playing this week, and a lot of them will be taking the bye next week, and then we'll get to our real mid-season in mid-October, mid to late October. But already right now, West Haven looking pretty darn good. Just to look back at some of the results of the last week's top 10, Cheshire beats Fairfield Prep 14-0 in a monsoon. At, you thought you couldn't see the lines at Alumni Stadium or at Raftery Field, not Alumni anymore, but at Raftery Field, you could barely see. I mean, I could see puddles welling up there in that field. Cheshire did not waste any time. They went to the bag of tricks early. They have Jeffrey Gonzalez throwing to Matt Jeffrey as Jeffrey to Jeffrey for the touchdown on the opening drive of the game, opening play of the game. And Cheshire goes on to win 14-0. Or Fairfield Prep, which 0-4, Pete, hasn't scored since you saw him against Hand in overtime. They only had the safety last week against Darien. They got shut out by Cheshire in pretty adverse conditions. We just talked about Cheshire. You're looking pretty good. But Fairfield Prep, I think we can kind of close the book on the Jesuits this year.
I don't know about that. I think 6-4 with this schedule, they'd have to win out, right? So that's wins against North Haven, Shelton, Hamden, Xavier, who's going to have a good record because of they're in Tier 2, Notre Dame West Haven, and then obviously West Haven, who we mentioned before. That's a lot of points. I don't think it's over yet.
Well, if they don't beat North Haven this week, or if they don't beat Shelton the week after, or if they don't beat Hamden, or if they don't beat Xavier, I think it's over.
We've seen them run the table before.
Shelton, Hamden, Xavier at home. All right. North Haven on the road. That's going to be tough, but I like all those teams over Prep right now. I mean, I could see them beating one of them, maybe 2. And then they got Notre Dame. I think they win that 1,
2, 3. I could see them going. I could see them going 4-2.
I don't see it, Pete. I'm closing the book on Fairfield Prep, other than playing spoiler mode right now. So
I'm leaving it slightly open. It's like a jar.
Yeah. How can a door be a jar, man? Sorry. That's an old Bill Hicks. That's an old Bill Hicks joke. How can a door be a jar, man? Anyway, ripping through this a little bit. Newtown destroyed Stratford 41-0. Maloney, Zakai Moore, 2 TDs, 35-0. They were number 4. Greenwich plays Monday night. I saw Ansonia beat up on Waterbury Career Academy 42-7. Staples beat Westville. And then the real big one, though, was number 9 Southington, Pete. And a game that, in a monsoon, they're coming off a loss to Staples, a game they led 13-0. And in this one, I watched the film on West Hartford's interactive YouTube, or their community website on YouTube. And Southington went right down the field, but gave the ball up on downs at the 7-yard line. And Hall just had played great defense. This is a team that is the only kind of, in the CCC, this is the only team that's able to consistently beat Southington year in, or maybe not year in, year out. There's only been 3 times they've beaten them over the last 10 years, but that's 2 more times than most other teams. You know,
and I think it's twice in 3 years that Hall has beaten them.
Yeah, it's because Hall had a really good team 2 years ago,
Yep.
or so. So that was a really good job by them. They had to score late in the half to tie that game 6-6. And then it was kind of a field position battle where they had a short punt, gave Hall a short field. That was plenty for Cooper Griffin, 29-yard field goal. And then they just kind of sat back and played a little defense. Bodie Smith ran for touchdowns. James Verrell has had a great game. He had 6 tackles, 4 for a loss, and a sack. And they held Southington under 200 yards total offense. Rashard Williams didn't do a whole heck of a lot. Your boy Anderson caught 4 catches for 15 yards. You know, they committed 2 turnovers in the rain. Just not a great night for Southington and Hall. You know, which was a couple weeks ago. Remember, they had Windsor up by 1 at halftime until Windsor scored 30 points in the third quarter to pull that game away. So maybe Hall's got something here. I don't know. We'll have to take a look at him. But very interesting to see Southington, which has really been kind of up and down, Pete.
Yeah, kind of disappointing. You know, coming off, they played Staples well. They were winning in that game.
Yeah, 13.
And you know, and then for them to look, the weather is the weather, and everyone had to deal with it. It's just, you know, loss like that. Look, Southington's schedule is not. I mean, it's not super complicated, but you know, you play Maloney and Cheshire in 2 of the last 3 games. You're sitting at 2-2 right now. You can't lose those games. I mean, those are your win out, must win mode now. It's October 2nd. I mean, and this is a talented Southington team. This is a lot of the guys on this Southington team were starters on last year's team that was number 1 in the poll heading into the state playoffs last year. They were the number 1 seed in Double L. All these guys are back, and now they're sitting at 2-2 in October. They have to win out.
Well, they got Connor this week. They got to go back to West Hartford. Then they get East Hartford at home. East Hartford, which, you know, we were singing their praises. They scored 44 points a game in the first 3 games. They almost got shut out. Tanner Thomas had 10 tackles and a pickoff and recovered a fumble for Glastonbury as they beat East Hartford 26-8. So that down goes them, and Southington. It's kind of looking like anybody's game in the CCC right now. Other perplexing games on Friday night that, let's go to the SWC. Let's go to my game. I went over to Benedict Field. I was going to go to Cromwell. Instead, I decided to go up to Benedict Field for, talk about teams that just lit up the scoreboard to start the season, 45 points a game. And you saw them against Bloomfield, but then they lost their quarterback, Rob Klein. Pete, you were at that game at halftime. He didn't come out, and they were forced to go with Aaron Champagne, Jason's younger brother, freshman at quarterback. And we were all wondering when we got there, pouring Benedict Field. Masuk, still without their coaches, head coach Steve Christie and Eric Giordano. This is week 13 since they've been suspended, pending a 3rd investigation into the program conduct. Who knows where that is? But Masuk's players showing their solidarity with their coaches. No decals on white helmets until they get their coaches back and are whole again. But on the field, it was rough going in the rain. And for a while there, it looks like this is going to be all Bunnell. First drive of the game, they drive right down the field in the rain. Luke Ryan hauls in an 8-yard touchdown pass from Jordan Pierce. And the Bulldogs just seemed to be able to move the ball better. And Masuk just could not move the ball. Just looked dead. And you would think coming out of halftime with the rain subsiding that Bunnell would be able to put their offense together and get this ball moving and really put Masuk away for good. It didn't happen that way. It was actually the Masuk defense coming up. Bunnell fumbles the exchange. Masuk pounces on it. Luke Longo kicks it into the end zone where Elijah Belazor pounces on the ball in the end zone. With the extra point, Masuk suddenly has a 7-6 lead. Now Bunnell's down 7-6. Ties just attempts to go for it on 4th and short, but they get stuffed. Masuk takes over, setting up a Zylik field goal from 35 yards out, and now it's suddenly 10-6. After losing another fumble, Bunnell gets the ball back deep in its own end in the 4th quarter. Luke Longo picks off a pass, takes 11 yards the other way, and Masuk defense now has scored 2 touchdowns, and set up another field goal, and they basically scored all the points of the game. Finally, at the end of the game, the Masuk's offense gets going with one of the Walkers scoring a touchdown, and they get out of there 24-6. Masuk with a big game against Barlow coming up next week in a game they should not have had. They had no business winning. Pull this game out by 3 touchdowns thanks to his defense. And, here's Elijah Belazor talking about the great performance.
Well, in the first half, we had a little trouble, but after the second half, we had talked about it during halftime, and we showed out.
How many bounces did that ball take before you jumped on it?
It was a lot. Like, I saw one of my guys, number 10, Luke Longo. He kicked it in. I was like, it's my time right here. So I picked up. Let's go touchdown.
First defensive touchdown?
First defensive touchdown, yes, sir.
How's that feel?
It feels great.
How did it change the momentum of this game?
It changed the momentum greatly, because after that, we just kept going on offense, and then we finished off with the game. We got pick six by my guy, Luke Longo, and we just kept going.
130 points in 3 games, and you come in here, you got nothing through 3, but your defense just fights it out and gets this win for you.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed like there was a hangover at first from last week, and we just had to kind of wake up a little bit and realize that we're still a good football team. Defense, incredible tonight. Stepped up immensely, gave up the 6 easy on the first drive, and they really held it. I mean, I don't know how many yards they have in the end of the game. I don't know. It wasn't a lot, but that's a great effort by the defense.
And the offense, it looks like you're just trying to find something that works.
Trying to find it, yeah. I mean, the weather didn't help, We're trying to break in Jason's little brother's a freshman, so we're trying to break him in there at quarterback. And, we tried everything tonight, and, we're finding ourselves. We'll be all right.
Well, just what's the status of your regular QB? Doesn't look like he's going to be back anytime soon.
He's not back till, I don't know. He's got a couple weeks at least till he's in that cast till Thanksgiving, I think. I don't know. It's unfortunate, but the type of kid he is, he came to practice on Monday in a cast. He texted me in the morning, said, "Can I practice?" I said, "Absolutely." He never missed a snap. And he came out and said, "I want to play wide receiver." And we threw him about 100 balls this week, and he caught all 100.
And he caught one in the game with the club on, yeah.
He has not dropped the ball yet since he put that club on.
How are you guys keeping it together, with everything kind of swirling around you? I mean, I know that's been kind of tough, and kids are kind of look like solidarity with the helmets. How are you guys keeping it together?
It's a testament to the culture. It's the culture that's been set here, and we're all just following it, and that's I love it. It's nice that we're able to do this without our 2 main guys, and it's testament to everybody in the program that we're able to do this.
Obviously, you saw Brian Hallepin, who's been the head coach. This is as he said just now, it's not the way he really wanted it. But, they've been kind of circling the wagons and doing their thing. He says he hopes this thing will be wrapped up soon. I mean, I don't know whether or not it is. I mean, we'll find out. But Masuk has been able to kind of hang in there, but with no quarterback. I mean, it looks like Klein's not going to be back. He's got a cast on his hand. He was thrown a bit on the side. He actually even caught a pass, Pete. So he's playing. But he's not going to be able to be their starting quarterback for at least a few weeks, if not months. So
yeah, and that Barlow game becomes really interesting now because Barlow's coming off a loss too, and you can't, you don't want to lose games early. You don't want to lose games early. They gave away the Bloomfield game. Sounds like they shouldn't have won this Bunnell game. And now they got a week off to figure out how do we recuperate before we get into Barlow, whether or not Steve Christie's back on the sideline for that game or not. We don't know, but we're starting to get into must-win territory for some of these teams here.
That was a big one for Masuk because, all right, they got Barlow at home. Then they get Pomprog, which, okay, they lost to New Milford. Shout out Zach White of New Milford, with 2 of 3 fumble recoveries to hand Pomprog, which, we were starting to keep our eye on. They beat Brookfield, come back here. Everyone loved them against New Milford, maybe. But, New Milford, shout out them. But the Masuk will play Barlow, then Pomprog. Then they go to Notre Dame Fairfield, which is quietly. They won on Sunday. They beat New Fairfield up. I think it was 26-8 or 20, something like that. So Notre Dame Fairfield at Sacred Heart at the end of the month. That's going to be big. And then Brookfield and then New Milford. None of those games. And then obviously Newtown. Masuk, which I predicted, was a state championship contender without their quarterback until they get their quarterback back. Nothing against, Aaron, who's a freshman, but he's a freshman. That's a tough spot for a freshman.
I mean, he came in against Bloomfield, and they're like, hey, go try and win us the game after we, completely gave it away. Like, he has been put in not easy spots. Luckily, his brother is probably the best player on the team, and, at least he has him to help learn from and kind of be under his wing. But Masuk, it's not as easy as it looked a couple of weeks ago for Masuk.
No, no stress. No stress. I mean, listen, Champagne's great, the Walkers are great, and that defense played great. But they're going to need a lot more games like that, and that was lucky they got out of there alive.
They looked so good in the first half against Bloomfield. I mean, they looked so good. Bloomfield couldn't stop them.
And that could end up being the high water mark for Masuk. We'll see. Bunnell, meanwhile, on the other hand, now they got to play Bethel, New Milford, Brookfield, Notre Dame, Fairfield. They don't have an easy stretch by any stretch. So very interesting. But Masuk getting out of there in the pouring rain. So that was my big game on Friday night, Pete. And then before I basically just wrung my clothes out the rest of the way. I was able to listen to some of the game. I almost went to Shelton because I was on my way back that way. I almost took a detour out, but as soon as I was getting into Shelton, I heard that there was a pickoff by Reid, and I was like, forget it. They're going to lose. So on the way, I went back home. But Saturday, Pete, some other interesting games. I did a little bit of an NVL tour. I went up to the Municipal Stadium to check out Holy Cross and Seymour, see how Seymour responded after losing to Oxford for the first time in like 10 years at their place. Now Seymour was staring at 1-3 in the face. They didn't win this game against Holy Cross. And, well, what can you say? Holy Cross continues to beat up on teams not named Naugatuck with Marcus Campbell just killing it. He had 3 TD catches and a couple great plays, diving catches off batted balls. Drew Cowett had a nice game, 2 TD passes in the first half. Seymour tried to claw back into that game, but they lose 36-14, and Holy Cross doing a nice job there at Municipal Stadium. So they've bounced back nicely. And then a little bit later on, even though I got warned early, I did decide to head down to see Woodland versus Gilbert Northwestern just to see what the Yellow Jackets were about. And I got all the way down there. I drove up the driveway, and just as the scoreboard peeked over the horizon, I saw 27-0. I turned around and went home. Went home for a couple hours. But that earlier that day, Oxford won. They're 4-0. They're playing Woodland next, in an NVL cross-division game. They're in the brass and Woodland's in the copper. At least I think so. Division I versus Division II. An interesting game for Oxford, which, again, beat Seymour for the first time in 10 years. They're looking pretty good. So then I decided to go back. I hadn't seen Ansonia. They were playing Waterbury Career Academy. I had no illusion to think that Waterbury Career Academy would be able to beat Ansonia. I just hadn't seen Ansonia yet. Perfect opportunity. I checked them out, and I like. Listen, the Chargers look like their usual dominant selves. Obviously Mackay Ingram looks great. Preston Zabina, their big end, who looks great, impressive looking. He didn't have a great game, but how about some of the other guys who did have great games? Romeo Charles, a junior, caught a pair of nice TDs from Mateo Sorrentino, their quarterback. And here's a guy I love, their linebacker, fullback, Quintez Whittle. What a name. 6 foot, 215, really good-looking player who was creating all kinds of havoc on defense. He actually scored a pair of touchdowns, one early and then one late. But Quintez Little, very good-looking kid. And then obviously Mackay Ingram and some of the dudes up front. Ansonia, typical Ansonia. We'll see you guys in Thanksgiving against Naugatuck. But that was my little NVL tour, Pete. I almost did the whole conference that day. But you were down at Boyle Stadium for the FCIAC, the actual FCIAC game of the week. St. Joseph looking a little iffy. Stanford losing to Greenwich, but giving Greenwich hell. Would they be able to beat the Hogs at their home turf for the first time since their last great season, 7-2 in 2011? What happened there, Pete?
First off, did you know that Boyle Stadium was built in the 1930s on New Deal money?
I did know that, actually.
I learned that. I was fascinated by it. I learned that this weekend, and as a history person, that was very cool.
Well, that is why it's got all the elaborate, stone structure, because that's part of the New Deal, for all your history people out there, was the adding more work so people would work longer hours and they would get paid, using the government subsidizing, all this work. And they would do all these elaborate sculptures. That's why you see it when you're on Route 15 or in the Merritt Parkway. You see these ornate carvings on the bridges that is what that is from New Deal stuff. So there you go.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Look at that. You learned something new.
Yeah, but that's interesting.
Yeah, it was great. So Chris Passamano, the Stanford AD, mentioned it to me, and I was like, "This is very cool." I had no idea.
Love that stadium.
That said, Boyle's incredible. But man, they came out. They looked good. I mean, they went their first drive. They were in the end zone. And I turned to Scott Erickson. I said, "All right." I go, Stanford's going to run right over St. Joe's because St. Joe's was just playing so block, so flat-footed, but Stanford really couldn't take advantage of it, so they were kind of just traded poorly kicked punts the entire game. And then I got to give a shout out because he broke through it towards the end of the game, but Chris Recupero, who caught what would be the game-winning touchdown for St. Joe's in the third quarter, he had an absolute awful start to the game. I mean, he was in Coach Del Vecchia's crosshairs from the first quarter on. He didn't run out a pass that he probably could have caught for a touchdown. Got called for a false start when they were inside the 5 that knocked him out of scoring range. They ended up turning the ball on downs. And then he comes up with the massive touchdown at the end of the game. And I even asked him at the end, I was like, when you scored that touchdown, did you go look for Joe Dell immediately?
It's all coaching. It's all my teammates. My teammates, they kept me going. I had those 2 takeoffs. I couldn't really do anything about it. And then I came out. They were like in the locker room, we need someone to be a superstar. We need someone to make a play. And that's just what I did. I saw the ball in the air. I just went and grabbed it. I knew I had to do it for my team.
You're looking for Coach Dell to be like, I did it.
Kind of. I saw him. He was kind of the first person I saw. And I was like, I got you, Coach. I knew I needed to do it. I don't really know what to say, but I was just happy. It was great win.
Recupero. Not really. Yeah, Recupero was not your best friend there early in the game.
No, not at all.
What can you say, though? He stuck with it, and he made that catch at the end.
He made a great catch. He's capable of doing a lot of things. Sometimes he loses concentration, and I tell the kids all the time, you never know when the ball's coming to you. You never know. With the way we call our offense, it could come to you at any time, so you have to be ready on any given play. And the kids are learning. This is his first year of varsity football. All our kids, our entire offense, pretty much is first year of varsity football. So they're learning on the fly a lot of different things, what's going on. So,
but really, when it came down to it, look, Stanford can play. I mean, they can play. They had opportunities. They had a lot of opportunities. Some opportunities you could argue that they shouldn't have had, because let me tell you, this game was a mess. They had to switch to clock operators at halftime because the original clock operator had no idea what was going on, running the clock on incomplete passes, stopping the clock on plays where you didn't have to stop the clock. 4 separate times in the first half, the referees had to stop the game, go over, and yell up to the clock operator to fix the clock. It was a nightmare. Then, of course, second half, it was kind of a little weird with the clock, too. But St. Joe's, you thought, put this game away 2 or 3 times. And every time, all of a sudden, looks like you got the first down. No. We're gonna bring it back. Hey, it's 3rd and 1 now. You think you got the first down? Pretty clear. Looks like you got the first down. Oh, no. It's 4th and inches. Then they hold. And then Stanford's got the ball back again. Stanford had a lot of chances. They did not capitalize on it. If you want to take stuff out of a loss, they played really well. This is not a great St. Joe's team. So, sure, you wanted to compete against the logo on the helmet. I know that's important and a big deal, but, Stanford really, really, really kind of should have won this game. But St. Joe's played really well, really strong. They never broke. I was expecting a little bit more from Stanford, and I didn't get that.
Why did Donnie go for 2?
I think he just saw it as an opportunity of, we can get them now. Let's control our own destiny on this. I said it. As soon as they scored, I turned to Scott Erickson. I said, he better go for 2. It just seemed like there weren't a lot of chances after that first 2 drives where they both scored. Both teams struggled to get the ball in the end zone. So it was like, we might not be back here. And it was 5.5 left. There was still enough time. They had the 3 timeouts. They ended up getting the ball back, I think, 3 times after that. Yeah. So they just left a lot to be desired. They're athletic. They're talented. but they took some bad penalties. I mean, there was one point they're going in down a score. It's 3rd and long or 2nd and long. They hit one of their wide receivers on a quick slant route. The kid has the first down, and then he hurdles a player, which you can't do.
It's against the rules. Can't do that.
It's against the rules. Flag moved all the way back.
Yeah, same the NFL.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm sitting there, hurdle right in front of my camera. I was like, this is a great shot. But, okay, now great. You were in the red zone. Now you're all the way back. Just stuff like that. In games, you need to learn how to win those. They talk about learning how to win. And I think Stamford needs to learn how to win.
Yeah, well, they're not going to have a lot of time to do much learning. They got a bye. They have a little time. They got a bye. Then they come back against Bridgeport Central, which they should win that game. But then they go at Staples, home versus Trumbull, which, okay. Then they're at Ridgefield. Who knows what Ridgefield will look like by then. Then home versus Danbury, and then they got West Hill. Now, the Danbury game's no gimme. Ridgefield's no gimme. I mean, West Hill, who heck knows in that game at that point in the season, or who knows? So, but that Staples game is going to make or break the season, I think. I think that's where you find out whether, Stanford's going to actually make a run here. I mean, they would obviously need to win a majority of those games, if not all of them.
I mean, Staples game, I agree with you. Trumbull, it depends. What Trumbull team is going to show up on October 28th?
Yeah.
Is Ridgefield going to be fully healthy, hopefully by November 3rd?
Who knows?
Yeah, there's a lot on there. I mean, you could look at that, and I'll say with certainty, I think one of those games is like they're definitely going to lose. The rest of them, I think they got a shot.
Speaking of Trumbull, big game. We talk about Trumbull, getting off the deck, going up to Ridgefield. It was a huge day for Rowan Johnston. 348 yards on 27 carries, and including a 91-yard touchdown. Scored 5 touchdowns, 42-21 over Ridgefield. Just to quickly stay in the FCIAC, Wilton, 3rd shutout in 4 games, by the way. And we mentioned earlier beating Ward up, but that's 3 shutouts. I mean, I know it was only a quarter. Does it count as a shutout? I guess it does. It should, right? But, we'll be seeing Wilton soon. I can't wait because, I saw him again. I saw him in Berlin. But when is Wilton's first big game here? Let's
New Canaan.
Yeah. So Wilton's in the bye now. Wilton's going to come out, and this is Wilton. Wilton's had it really low under the radar. They got Berlin. They beaten them up. Norwalk, Platt, Ward. Okay. Now they come out of the bye October 14th. Home versus Staples, at New Canaan, at Darien, at McMahon, and then Ludlow at home before they come back to Fujitani Field. Ludlow at home. And then they play Shelton in the finale. Oh, man. A lot of coaches love Wilton. I think that Wilton's been in the coaches poll. Is that right? We saw
that Wilton got bumped into the coaches poll. They're at 10. Welcome to the club. I've been voting for Wilton all season.
Yeah.
I think EJ does a great job there. These are games that, look, I look at Wilton. I'm not overhyping them. I'm not underselling them either. Those 4 games they needed to win. They should have won, and they did, and they dominated. Now you take your week. Now the second part of the season starts. This is where those sophomores become juniors. The juniors become seniors. The seniors become older seniors.
Yeah.
So this is when boys become men.
Yeah, this is it. Wilton's been laying in the weeds for a little bit. Now, when we're coming out of this bye, man, it's Wilton time. All right, what do you guys got? Let's see it. We'll see it quick. Moving on over to the Pequot. Friday night was supposed to be a big showdown at Pearson Park between Cromwell, which was 2-0. Their website says 3-0, but that game, their opening game, is postponed versus Coggins. It's till November. They're one of those games. So they're actually 2-0 going into Morgan, Saybrook, Westbrook Co-op. We had on Kevin Sullivan last week. They were 3-0, looking pretty good. Jack Nye and the guys. But what Kevin neglected to tell us was that his quarterback, Tyler Baldwin, likely done for the season with a torn ACL injury that he suffered last week against Cap. Oh, man. They moved the game to Old Saybrook for Sunday morning. I was able to get up bright and early and roll out there. And with that little development in mind, listen, they gave it a good fight. Morgan, Old Saybrook, MSW. They gave it a good fight, but too much Cromwell, Portland. looking great. Looked like they never left. Like all those seniors, they didn't graduate. They graduated a lot of guys, though. And Mecca Yearwood had a couple TD runs early to put them up 12-0 after the first quarter. Jack Nolan catching a pair of long touchdown passes from quarterback Jess Elfreich. They look pretty good. Some dudes were coming up. Cromwell Portland goes on to win very easily. It was a little bit of running time in the second half. Cromwell Portland with the big 35-6 victory. They're 3-0 going at Rockville. And on a Sunday, it was a coaches convention, Pete, over at Old Saybrook. You saw a lot of the coaches up there, including Eric Knickerbocker from Rockville, keeping an eye on the Cromwell Portland Panthers as they go up in a battle of unbeatens. I believe Rockville is 2-0. 2-0 versus 3-0, and we are in week 5. So very interesting game coming up with them. Another big game in the Pequot, Pete, is North Branford, also off to a nice little 3-0 start. They actually started a week late, but have won their latest big game over Capital Prep. And speaking of North Branford, the new coach is Anthony Salvati from Guilford, who we talk to right now. Joining us on the show is the first-year head coach of the North Branford T-Birds. It's Anthony Salvati, who's been there forever. He had a 4-year stint at Guilford and came back home when the job opened. Welcome to the podcast, Coach. Off to a great start. How you doing today?
I'm doing good, Sean. Thanks for having me, Pete. Appreciate it. Off to a good start so far, man. So hopefully we keep things going.
Tell me about coming back to North Branford. I know you went to Guilford. You were there for what, 15? How long were you there for? You were there as an assistant for a while.
Yeah, I was at North Branford for 15 years as an assistant, OC there for a few years. Then I got the head job at Guilford back in 2019 and did some time there for 4 years. And this job opened up and came back home. So it's kind of surreal, man. I think I was just telling you guys, this is my 20th year coaching. And to come back to North Branford as a head coach there, first alumni there ever to be a head coach, it's surreal.
Wow.
It's very, very surreal.
Wow. And then you brought Sags on board, Sags Jr.
Yeah, Sags Jr. So backstory there. His father was my coach. We've kept in touch over the past, so many decades. And I had the honor of coaching him 10 plus years ago. And now he's my defensive coordinator, man. And he's getting the job done for us. He's a student of the game, obviously, in his family. So
what was, the cupboard obviously wasn't bare when you took over. Obviously Tommy Hansen was he was great running back last year for them, and you had an all-stater up front in DePino. You did lose some guys. I guess if I remember correctly, the quarterback, one of your top receivers. What did you have when you arrived back at North Branford?
You know what? I mean, that last year's team for North Branford, they had 16 seniors that graduated. That took up a lot of the spots on offense and defense. So honestly, the only thing I knew coming into North Branford was that, yes, we had a running back in Tommy Hansen. And yes, we had an all-state lineman in Lucian DePino. I wasn't really sure what else we had, honestly, until we started hanging out a little bit in the weight room, watching their film from last year. Found out we have a sophomore quarterback that is a dual threat that can run and pass, and AJ Siegel. So that's a bright spot. So that kind of starts getting the wheels in motion, what you want to do offensively when you have your quarterback, running back, and left tackle set up. It's like, okay, now we kind of have an identity. And then you find, another guy in a tight end like Luke Blomster, another offensive lineman like Aiton Chittenden. And it's like slowly you start seeing the pieces come together, But again, you don't know until you get on the field in August what you really have. But yeah, it's been pleasantly surprising with what we have out there.
Were you glad to get that first week bye because Morgan had combined? Was that what that was, or was that built in elsewhere?
Yeah, it was built in. So I'm not sure the reasoning, but I do remember when I saw the schedule come out in March, I was angry. I was like, well, I was like, how do I start off a season with a bye? I'm like, that's. And then as the anger subsides, you settle in a little bit. You're like, you know what? This might be the best thing for us. New staff, new system, get the kids another week of practice. And lo and behold, it was kind of a blessing in disguise.
You were still chomping at the bit, though.
Oh, yeah. But and then you go scout, and then that, I don't know if you remember, week 1 was all these weather delays, lightning. So I take an hour ride up to Ellington to go scout them. It's a 2-hour delay. They start the game, and then within about 15, 20 minutes, they cancel the game. So, I was a little, chomping at the bit even more. But then kind of hindsight 2020, what, we didn't really miss much.
Coach, you're back at North Branford. Sean said you were coach there for many years. You played there. Why, at what point did you realize, hey, I want to be a head coach? And did stepping to go to Guildford for a couple of years, was that more of, hey, I want to get a little bit more experience, and then kind of when the job opened, you're like, okay, this is a perfect opportunity for me to go back?
Yeah, you know what? I mean, even when I was a younger coach, I had the ambition that I wanted to be a head coach at some point. But coaching in North Branford for so long, it's like, do I want to leave home? Do I want to take that step? It's kind of your security blanket, if you will. And then there was a couple opportunities. Jobs opened up in the area. I remember Lyman Hall. I kind of was tinkering with. I was thinking about applying, and then Guildford opened up twice. And the first time I passed on it, and then the second time I was like, you know what? I have to make this jump while my kids are young enough. And so I did. And fortunately, everything worked out well there. But yeah, now that North Branford opened up, you would expect it to be an easy decision. Walk away from Guildford, come back home. But I got to be honest, it was not an easy decision. And it's not because I don't love North Branford. It's because of what we built there in Guildford, was you're starting to see the fruits of your labor. And you have the bond with those players, and knowing that they're going to be a good team. And those players, it was a tough decision. And honestly, talking to those players, telling them I'm leaving was probably the toughest conversations I've had in my entire life. But, I had to do what was best for myself and my family. And I think ultimately, everyone's happy. It worked out well for Guildford, hiring Brian. Yeah. Worked out well for us in North Branford. I could be around my family a little bit more. So I think overall, everyone should be happy with the decision, even though at that time it was a struggle.
Well, they're doing great now. I mean, Brian's off to a roaring start. And I don't, like I said, I don't know when could they lose again? Who knows? They're in a great position.
I'm hoping they make that next step and get to the playoffs and do some damage, because I think that's a very talented team that a lot of teams should be worried about.
Yeah, Guildford's just itching to get back there. There's been so many times. It's so close. Now you have a little bit more of a window of opportunity, and to not get it last year must have been really tough. But, obviously he's off to a great start. Tell me about your team a little bit more. I mean, that first win, like we talked about, you had a bye, and then you go into Ellington. They didn't finish the game. Now they're playing against you, and you guys are just fighting and clawing. And, that was a tough one to pull out. How were you guys able to, get that one going? And what did it do for your confidence going forward?
Well, you come out of your preseason, you always want to come out healthy. And unfortunately, coming out of our preseason, we actually ended up losing Lucian DePino, our starting left tackle.
Yeah.
So going into week one, now we're like, okay, how do we fill that spot? Because you get a kid like Lucian, you can't really fill that spot. He's that much of a difference maker. Now you're just going in there saying, okay, let's get someone up to speed that can do well enough for us to make sure that we don't have a hindrance there. And we did. We had a sophomore come in there, play left tackle a little bit, moved our outside backer down to D end, and we got the job done. But again, it was trial. It was a back and forth game, so it was trial by error. Because after the game was over and we met with the team on that Saturday, I said, hey, how many of you guys have played varsity football before on a Friday night? And I think there was about 4 kids that raised their hand. That's right. So, you get out of that one with a win. It wasn't as pretty as you'd like, but after that, the kids really bought in. They started believing in us wholeheartedly, because everything that we told them that they were going to see on film came to fruition on Friday night, and they're like, oh, coach said this, coach said that, I think that's when they realized that, okay, the coaching staff's for real. They know what they're talking about. So now we get some confidence in them. They're more comfortable on their second game of the season. Now they have a game under their belt, and we get able to get out of there and go into Plainfield week 2 a little bit more confident than we were week 1.
Yeah, Plainfield, you beat up on that Capital Prep. You guys did a nice job last week. Now you go in. Now you got a big one. Now you set it up. You're going up there, kind of a tough spot, but what can you say about your matchup with Granby, Canton?
Listen, Coach Shortell does a great job up there. I think they're in the playoffs, almost every year now, the past few years. So we know what we got. It's going to be a tough one for us. But again, I like the way we're playing right now, and I think it's going to be a battle. We know we have to stop their running back and quarterback up there. The kids, they're both of them are studs, but they got some other weapons there, and they're going to be well coached. They get off the ball well. We just got to make sure, and we tell our teams this: we don't play against opponents, we play against ourselves. If we don't shoot ourselves in the foot and put ourselves in second and 15 or first and 15 with a penalty or something like that, we stay on schedule. We could play with anyone. So that's the goal right now. We're going to go into today's practice, and we're going to make sure that we understand our job and what we have to do to be successful. And then we'll let the cards fall where they may on Friday. But I think we have a good shot there.
Tommy's playing great. I mean, we kind of thought he would be. And the fact that you got, you have him at all is great. I know tons of kids over the years, especially from North Branford, maybe have gone on to other places, maybe gone somewhere else, but he's staying home. And just what has he meant to you guys?
Listen, he's the heartbeat of the offense. Kids look up to him, and I think I had this conversation with him when I first met him. I said, listen, kids are going to look up to you, whether you realize it or not, because you are the guy. Everyone knows who you are. I said, are you okay with that burden? And he just smiled at me. He goes, yeah, coach, I'm okay with it. Like any other kid would do. But man, he lives up to the hype. He trains hard in the off season. He's a gym rat. I mean, he still goes to the gym twice a week, 3 times a week, even during the season. And, you can see it. It shows on the field. He's fearless out there. He's strong. He's built for the game. And he's not afraid of the moment. I mean, he just runs hard and runs downhill, and he makes people miss and makes people pay when you tackle him.
Well, he was responsible for that Ellington TD, the one that put you over the top there to win that game. And obviously you'll need him here. You got Will Atnese on the other side there. It's going to be a nice little duel between you guys. Yeah. Well, Coach, what's the numbers like? I'm looking at the Pequot. I'm seeing Old Saybrook, Westbrook. Now they're with Morgan. It's only 4 teams left that are singular schools, basically. I mean, Adam Killer's even 2 towns. But how? I mean, I know numbers is it's always kind of a hit or miss thing, and how are you guys doing there? And do you see a time where North Branford might even have to co-op, or how's that working out for you guys?
I don't have any intention on co-oping. And maybe that's naive to me to say, but I think being this alumni guy here that's now the coach, I don't want to put another name on our jersey. Again, who knows what 10, 15 years down the road says, but as of right now, we are going in and we're going in to prepare ourselves. 31 strong is what we call ourselves, because we have 31 guys, and all 31 guys have to be ready to go. Freshmen to seniors. When we lost Lucian, it was next man up type of mentality. And I think the kids are buying into that. We're not going to make excuses if we lose a game because someone got hurt. We need to have everyone prepared. All 31 kids have to be ready to go.
And I know, well, I was in talking to Sagnella, you also have a good support of the school.
Yes.
Superintendent, obviously schoolmaker, he's a big football guy. His sons are killing it. Yep. So I know it's good to have a guy like that in your corner to kind of support you guys. And then the youth program seems to be doing pretty well.
Yeah, you know what? So I have 2 of my younger boys in youth program. They have over 100 kids right now in the program. So which is the most they've had in 10 years. So we are slowly getting it from the ground up here. And I think eventually we'll see the fruits of the labor, and we'll have 40, 50 kids on the team at some point. Right now, I don't have that magic wand to do. So it's 31 strong we go.
Coach, so you've brought a lot of new stuff to the program. I see tons of Instagram stuff, lots of Twitter stuff. You got a lot of that going on this year as far as bringing a social media aspect to North Branford. How important is that? And who's doing it for you?
We're fortunate enough. We have Jake Narachi, who's a Syracuse grad. He's a North Branford guy. His father actually helps out Coach Sagnella in North Haven. He opted to do it for us. So I was like, this is huge, and he says he's treating it like a college program as far as the Instagram and social media goes. And that's what he's doing. He's doing a great job with it, because listen, kids nowadays, what do? They live on their phone. They're on social media.
Yeah.
So if we can start getting more a bigger fan base and more crowds and people noticing, it's just going to benefit us, on a Friday night. Get that crowd out there rocking and make it the place to be that it should be in North Branford on Friday night.
Yeah, well, we appreciate it, because I love to see the post game. We had actually a shot of Tommy Hansen's touchdown against Ellington. Yep. And but then you guys had another angle on it, another view of it. So I was like, this is great. We got all the multiple angles on North Branford stuff. You guys have a ton. If you don't get to your game, I know exactly what happened. So I appreciate what Narachi's doing.
He's doing a great job. I couldn't ask him to do a better job. He's phenomenal. So
let's date back to when our paths really first crossed in 2019. You're heading into your first season at Guilford. Week 1, you're playing Branford. And I proclaim on this very podcast that Branford is going to win the state championship.
I'd be
and
lying
then you guys went out. Huh?
I'd be lying if I said I didn't remember that.
And then you guys went out and thumped the Hornets and made me look really, really bad. But it has, from then, we've had this wonderful relationship has spawned. And now it's your first time on the show. I mean, when you saw that in 2019, if you go back and remember, what was that like? You coming in, you're like, who the hell are these guys just yapping about? They don't know anything, clearly.
Well, I mean, I think this is a PG show, so I'm not going to tell you what I said to the team in the locker room about what you guys had said. but we did use it for bulletin board material. Absolutely. And again, it's nothing personal. I know you guys have to do what you have to do. But again, as a coach, you look for any type of advantage you can get to get your kids motivated. And it just so happened to be that it was just the magic 8 Ball that believed in us that week.
No, I believe in you too.
We took it and ran with it. But yeah, no, Pete, I appreciate everything you do, man.
Well, you guys are going to be on the board this week too. So,
yeah. Some extra motivation.
Just letting you know. So, should we pick Granby Canton this week, Coach? What do you think?
Listen, I mean, you guys seem to know a lot about them. So you've seen them play. Maybe go with your gut. Go with your gut. That's all I'm saying.
Oh man, I can't even think about who I want to pick. It's like,
the Pequot's great this year.
I love the Pequot. Absolutely.
There's so many good teams this year in the Pequot. And, for you, obviously you coached in the Pequot for a while over to the SEC. I believe you guys were in tier 3 of the SEC, very competitive there. A lot of some crossovers, obviously, to tier 2. But now in the Pequot, what do you see maybe is the biggest difference between the two conferences, maybe schedule-wise, or, you look at the Pequot, Cromwell, Morgan, North Branford, Granby, Rockville. I mean, SMSA was a playoff team that almost beat an FCIAC team to go to the semifinals last year.
Yeah. Listen, a lot of those teams you just mentioned can probably play in that tier 3 division for the SEC. I think for some reason, I don't know why this is. I don't think Pequot really gets the respect that it deserves. Like you said, there's a handful of teams every year that do well in the state playoffs. You've had teams that won the state championships in Cromwell, Valley. Rockville's been there the past couple of years. Granby's been there. So, me knowing the Pequot and also being in the SEC for the past 4 years, listen, I think those teams you mentioned, there's a reason why they are in the state playoffs. They could be a tier 3 team if they had numbers. The problem is the numbers wise, they're all in the same boat. They don't have this. They can't compete with a Class L school week in and week out to be in a tier 3 team. And I think that's why there is a difference. I'd be foolish to say that, listen, they can compete with Hand and Xavier and Cheshire every week. Obviously I know that's not the case. But you give those give any of those teams a playoff game against a similar sized opponent, and they're going to beat you, or they're going to be give you a damn good game. So, yeah, man, it's good being back in the Pequot. It's good football, and the schedule gets tougher as the year goes on. But we're taking it as an SEC approach, whereas we got the big dog this week. Let's concentrate on this team. We're not looking down the road here. So, every week's a playoff game for us, and it starts this week with Granby now.
Coach, obviously, is it too early to start looking ahead, looking who else is good in Class S? Are we? And I know we're only week 3 for you guys.
I haven't even looked. I won't go that far. Like I said, we're focused on Granby, and that's it.
That sounds perfect to me. We won't. We'll when we get to the playoffs, when we get to the state championship game, we'll interview you extensively about your chances. But okay, Coach, what's that?
Let's hope.
Yeah. Coach, just an amazing job so far. Thanks for joining us for a little bit, and it's going to be with all the other leagues, all the big SEC and FCIACs taking the week off. Maybe it's time for, if you haven't been to one, maybe go check out a Pequot game. I could not think of a better one than maybe North Branford at Granby. I know Cromwell, Portland, and Rockville will rival it, but can't go wrong with either one. Coach Anthony Salvati, thanks for joining us. We really appreciate it, and we'll see you down the road.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, great.
Thanks, Coach.
So, Pete, North Branford T-Birds in good hands with the alumnus. I didn't know he was the first alumnus as head coach. Interesting. The house that who all these guys built? Sagnella. You had Benoit was head coach there. Obviously, Mark Basil there for like almost 20 years. Took me to a state final a couple times. Didn't win one, but hey, you couldn't ask for a better guy there. And they also have Sagnella on staff too. So that's great. Tommy Hansen there. They look pretty good. I'm very anxious to see where North Branford does the rest of this season.
Yeah, Salvati is when I really got introduced to him when he took over the Guilford program, and you asked him in the interview about it. It was just their presence online. And, Guilford had this big presence online all of a sudden in heading into 2019. Coach Salvati does a really good job with stuff like that, giving attention to his program. Then they back it up with wins on the field. And, he puts himself out there. He puts his kids out there. And it's easy to root for them in that type of way. But you could see even his effect on the Guilford program. I mean, Guilford's off to a great start this year, too. And, he obviously had an effect at that program. Now back at North Branford, where, does it get better than coaching where you played?
No, yeah.
So that's great to see.
I'm curious to see how long North Branford can stay as a one school team in Class A. I guess you need to just keep sustaining it. He says the numbers look great. He doesn't want to do it, so I like to see it. Majority of the Pequot now is just it's basically the co-op league.
And then you look at the CTC, and it's the rest of the Pequot co-ops are in there.
Yeah. Anyway, all right. So I think that'll be a podcast for this week. We had a little bit of fun here, but I'm glad to get a little bit of a break with a lot of gaming out there. So Pequot, SEC, and then the FCIAC on Saturday. So that'll be fun. Woo! We are on to week 5 for Pete Paguaga. I'm Sean Patrick Boy. This has been the Game Time CT Meat Grinder on Game Time CT. Goodbye.
Love you all.